Hey guys, welcome to Famous Last Words. My name is Evan DeGraff, and this is the 8th episode of the series so far. This is the interview, kind of relaxed-based conversational show that I've had for a while, an idea that was seeming in my brain, and now here it is. Fun facts, this is our first non-film community / Schmodown guest that we're having on the show, and I'm overtly excited to talk to this person because they are one of the first. They are the person that ran the first major that I ever went to, and we'll get into that soon. But before that, we're gonna break down what we have going on in the week, and then we're gonna jump right into it. On Wednesday, Chris Clark is hosting Suddenly Soundchecks Fan of the Paradise with a Mark Hewitt video during Rachel Silver's training. 3 very intelligent people, eclectic, just like the musical itself. So make sure you guys check that. That's tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern. And then Thursday, we are doing, it's not here. Thursday is, I think, the PJ Campbell show. It's something else, but if we don't have programming, we're going to upload something else for you guys to look at. So make sure you guys check that out. And then Friday, we're doing a Knives Out watch along. It's a complete Rian Johnson month. We've been watching every single Rian Johnson movie. So make sure you guys check that out. That's my personal Rian Johnson favorite. So really, really hyped for that. And then Saturday, we're doing Family Game Night, Cards Against Humanity, Part 3. Shout out to Chris Clark, really working all the punches here, making sure that all these things are possible. We have a great cast of characters that can be joining us there. So make sure you guys check it out. And then last but not least, just the rest of the watch alongs that we have planned for you guys. Giant Brad Bird Month and Monster Month. I'm really excited. But the show isn't about that. I reached out to this person because I think being in TSL has Tallahassee Smash League has a little pull. I don't know. We're a bunch of dummies. But let's just go ahead and bring her to guest. Cyrus Cagt, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you? How you doing?
It's like I said before we got on there, it's just quarantine. It's another one of those days where you're just like, you know what? It is what it is. But I have a lot to look forward to this week, this interview included. So it's having something to look forward to really helps.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, like we're just doing our best to keep ourselves busy right now. I know everyone's got a lot of things going on, so I'm just glad to be here, man.
Yeah. So, practically like in the show, but what we're gonna try and get into, and feel free to like flood the comments with whatever. I definitely like want to hear you guys' thought or what you guys maybe want to hear from Cyrus, because obviously we don't know the full, like I don't know everything, but I'm not expected to know everything. And I'm hoping some Smash community like people flood the chat tonight, because it'd be nice to see some new faces in here. But sexy, big sexy beard man, we love to see it. So we're just gonna jump straight into it. Obviously, like you're really well known in the community right now, specifically due to online tournaments. And something I was thinking about earlier is like how you've been responding to things and all the research that you do, because I think the biggest thing about you as a TO is like the amount of research that you do to go into making things more proficient, especially at GSC, which is the Gainesville Stock Exchange, the Gainesville local, which has like 100+ people enter from time to time. But before all that, I really want to get into like what made you get into the fighting community first, or the fighting game community, I should say, not a fighting community.
I guess.
What was your first game? What caught your eye? So let's go. I think you were in New England at the time when all this came to you. What was your first fighting game?
I mean, so I've been like, obviously I've been playing games my whole life, and like fighting games were always like my favorite thing to play. Just because I was like, I enjoyed like team-based games, like Halo, Counter-Strike, and everything. But like fighting games was something different, because it also was like 1v1. It was always like you versus the other person. And when you won at like a fighting game, you was like, oh, I'm the better player. Like I'm the one who did this. And my whole life, like I always went back. I tried like every fighting game under the sun, right? I've tried Tekken, KOF, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Soul Calibur, everything. I played everything. But Smash was always the one that I went back to. It was always the one that I stuck to. It was the most popular game amongst my friends. It just made the most sense to me. So when I was in Boston, it was like, I want to say in middle school, like late middle school, early high school. I was looking up like kind of videos on like how to get better at Smash, like very basic stuff, right? Like how to be better with Falcon combos, really easy. And I stumbled across VODs at Evo of like, Leffen, Mango, etc. And I had no idea. and I was just looking up these videos, and I'm like, well, that's so cool. I want to be like those guys. I want to go to tournaments. I want to do everything. But obviously, I was like 14, 15, so it wasn't really exactly easy at the time. Obviously, now there's a lot of like very young, talented players, but at the time, it was a lot harder to get into the scene. So all I had was like YouTube videos and like Reddit. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll go on that. And then it was a really funny coincidence. The moment that I graduated from high school, which was June 2015, there's a local in Boston that started up at the exact same time. And I was like, this is perfect. I'm out of high school. I'm almost an adult now. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to go to weeklies. I'm going to see what's up. And I went to my first local. I went 0-2. I got completely destroyed, but I had a blast. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this more. I want to keep going every week. And then here I am.
So was this Brawl or was this Melee?
This was Smash 4.
Smash 4. Okay, so Smash 4 came around about that because you know sometimes those games like to linger around. So I was curious into that. So you got hooked. You went 0-2, which that's all I do. And the game's obviously sketching you, and you jump into the community. How long does it take you to realize, oh, I'm like a part of this community, or like, was there like any story behind like you actually like falling in love with more than just the game and like the community in general?
I mean, I don't know if there was really like an exact time where I was like, oh, this is it. This is my community or whatever.
Right.
But I want to say after like, it was very quick. After maybe like, I want to say 3 months, I felt pretty integrated, at least with my local community. Because I started attending during the summer, but I was also like traveling with family, so I wasn't like super active. I didn't actively really start competing until the fall, because that's when I got into college. I went to Wentworth, actually, in Boston, and there was a Smash Club there. So it's kind of through them, and also now being in town all the time, I got to go to more events, meet more of the community. And I want to say by the end of the fall, that's where I was like, all right, I've met a bunch of people. I've got a few close friends. I know what the locals are like. Like, I actually feel like I was a part of the community. So I want to say about 2 months in.
So, and then from there, so it's Smash 4 time. Did you end up actually just like start doing better in tournaments? You started going 1-2, 2-2, or even 3-2 at some points. Like, how long did that evolution take?
It was fairly quick. I think it took me, about the same time, like 2-3 months, where I like really started to see like a major improvement. I didn't get any like major breakout, like beating Mars 2 months later or something, but I was like, I was definitely doing better. I was like, you know,
Yeah.
I've gone like a few top 8s. I've beaten a few solid players. I'm starting to like become a threat in bracket. Not necessarily, hey, he's gonna win the tournament, but it's like, you know, not someone you can just sleep on winners round 1. So that it felt really good at the time.
What character were you maining at the time?
Little Mac.
You're okay. So you're Little Mac main through and through, because I know Little Mac was your guy, or is your guy right now.
Yes.
Shout out to Smash Ultimate. So you're in Boston, and then did you start becoming a TO in the area?
So once 2016 started, the current like the TO/admin of Smash 4 at our Smash Club, I forget if he graduated or if he left the school or something. I don't forget what happened exactly, but basically he stepped down from his TO role, and there wasn't really anyone else to kind of take over. And I was the only one in the club who was really involved with the Smash 4 side of the community and was like actively helping out with the club and such. So they just figured like, hey, do you want to just become the TO for the club and just kind of help us, you know, do all that stuff? So I was like, you know, sure, why not? Like, and like obviously like I wanted to help out, but I didn't want to become like a full TO or anything. It was just like, I just want to have fun. I just want to like learn more and see what this is about. And I kept TOing, and I was helping a lot of the Boston events as well. Like even just a little bit, right? Just taking scores, sign up, stuff like that, very small stuff. And I really enjoyed it, but it was never a priority at the time. So I never really thought about going into it full time. I just kind of kept helping out as much as I could in as many ways as I could, but my heart was always competing. And I want to say it's not until like maybe like 2 years later that I really started to take TOing, like two years that I took TOing more seriously. And I was like, all right, wait, maybe this might be something I could really, really look into. and I didn't delve into like full TOing until I moved to Florida last year. So technically, if I'm talking as like a full-time TO, I'm still pretty new, but I've been TOing for like a good amount of time now.
Yeah, so it was more like how can I help the community out in any way possible, like when people need me or whatever, to then you move to Florida and it becomes, oh, I'm slowly becoming someone prominent in the Gainesville area. I'm slowly actually like doing things, and like and depending on the community that you're in, like it's always this really weird slow build up, and then it just kind of happens. You're like, oh, you have that realization, like, oh
Yeah,
shit,
that click, right? And like
that
another big
click.
thing too is that like New England like has historically had a lot of great TOs. Like one of the best TOs in Smash have come from New England. Like for example, like famously like Matt.Zeb, who's done, you know, laundry list of things for the esports community. He was originally from New England. And there's a bunch of names I could name, people I could name honestly. So there were already so many TOs in New England that were doing so many great things. I was like, well, I don't need to TO because there's already so many people there. You know, I just help out. But when I came to Gainesville, you know, there wasn't. I don't want to say there weren't any TOs. Obviously, there were TOs and figureheads and such. But I realized there was like a certain aspect of leadership that was missing.
Right.
And I realized there's a lot that I could have brought to the table from my experience to the scene to really kind of help it grow. And very quickly, I kind of became like the guy in Gainesville. And I was like, all right, well, if I'm doing all this in Gainesville, why don't I just expand to Florida like I did with New England, you know, going from Boston to NE. And, you know, it basically snowballed. And now it became one of the figureheads of the state. So it's really, really awesome.
So why did you move to Gainesville then? Because like outside of going to school there, I can't imagine any other reason for someone to like move to Gainesville. Not like, you know,
yeah,
just a general thing.
I get you. So I want to say like end of 2018. I wanted to move out of New England. I was planning on moving out of New England anyways. Just because like I like to be independent, and I wanted to kind of move away from my family, not because we were on any bad terms. I just wanted to kind of have my own life and kind of, you know, start fresh somewhere else. And I also obviously wanted to expand more on like an esports career. And at the time, I didn't feel like New England was the right place for me. I did everything that I wanted. I've accomplished everything that I wanted to. And I was like, all right, I want to grow somewhere else. And originally I was looking at moving to California, actually. You know, everybody wants to move to LA. It's like the dream place. And I was kind of preparing my move, looking up jobs and apartments and everything. And around, I want to say September, October-ish, Seoul actually contacts me and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing like a Smash House thing in Gainesville with like a bunch of top players and whatever. And we can like stream all together and you can be a TO for Gainesville and like all this other stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. That's great. But like, I'm not moving until I get a job because I need money. I need to pay rent. It's that simple. And I was like, if you can find me a job, I'll move. If not, then just forget about me. And like a month go by and I don't hear anything back. So I'm like, all right, whatever, it fell through. And November comes by and he comes back to me. He's like, hey, I actually have a job for you. I was like, for real? Like, you're not baiting me, right? He's like, no, I actually have something. And turns out it's actually Duo Studios, which is a production company here in Gainesville, Florida, that he was telling me like, hey, they know about you, they know everything you've been doing, and they want to work with you. And I was like, all right, cool. So I emailed Duo Studios. I started talking to him for a few weeks, and things went really well. And I was like, yeah, this is it. Like I can't pass this opportunity. So I took the job. I announced my leave, and then I moved to Gainesville in January. So it's like Seoul definitely played a role because I knew the Florida scene beforehand, and I was accustomed to some of Gainesville, some of CFL, SFL, and such.
CFL.
The big turning point was really just working with Duo Studios.
Right. So what? Because I know right now you're like you're associated with them and you work with them, but like, what was your first job with Duo Studios, and like, has that like expanded and changed over time? Obviously, as like you've become a more prominent like TO and even just operator in general.
Yeah. Originally, my official job title was a digital media specialist. So anything involving stream layouts, involving graphics, videos, whatever it was, or even anything regarding to actual production was what I was focusing on. And obviously, if there was anything involving like TOing or going to events or whatever, like he would kind of loop me in. and that's what I originally started with. But eventually, as I grew in Florida, as my relationship with Duo Studios grew, things went a lot more in depth. And as of, I think this is very new. I think as of like a few weeks ago, I'm now the esports consultant for Duo Studios. So taking on a much bigger role, a much more of like a director role, I want to say,
Right.
and having a much bigger impact on the company. So I'm very, very happy with my growth with them as well.
That's actually really cool. Considering, and especially right now, you could argue there's like some really like interesting ideas for streams, not for Duo Studios and just the streaming world in general as everything has shifted. So you're in Gainesville and you're writing this line with Duo Studios, and then so this is where my knowledge gets blocked because I started Smash like late freshman year of college, which would be about a year and a little bit of time ago. But on top of that, I didn't get that big into it until sophomore year, which was last year or even this year now. Yeah. So a big thing that everyone enjoys is Gatorland. And it's probably one of the biggest tournaments in Florida, period, especially with it being like a free tournament in Gainesville, which it's very central to Florida, but it's also Gainesville. It's not like Miami, Orlando, even Jacksonville for that case. How was GSC? Sorry, not GSC. Was Gatorland a thing before you came and you helped grow it, or was this an idea that you took on and you're like, let's do it?
Gatorland's been around for a hot minute. It's been around since, I don't remember the exact date. I think it was 2012 or 2013. I think I have to ask people. But Gatorland's been a Florida staple for a minute. It's been a Gainesville staple for a minute. It's got its own legacy at this point. Right. And when I came down to Florida, when I came down to Gainesville, obviously like they needed a TO for Smash 4, and usually whoever was like the TO at the time in Gainesville will be running Gatorland, and so I just took on that job, and I was like, all right, I'll TO Gatorland, why not? It was actually like my first time like really TOing like a regional. I've obviously I've helped before with regionals and majors and such, but it was my first time really having like a head TO position and like really kind of getting to decide like a lot of things in terms of the event itself. And so I was just like, you know what? All right, well, and I've heard obviously all the stories about Gatorland in the past, that I know there was a lot of like, it ran really slowly or setups or whatever. So I was like, all right, let me put my twist into it and see what I can do to improve the event. And the Gatorland Spring 2019, I think, was the first one that I officially worked at. And it went like really, really well. I think we had something like 270 players, and we finished by like 8 p.m., which was like really awesome. And it went really, really well. And basically from there, I was still like the head TO for Ultimate, but with every iteration of Gatorland, I had a bigger role in the event, and I didn't necessarily become like one of the main organizers, but I helped a lot with the organization of Gatorland. When it came to contacting TOs, when it came to setups, time frame, room layout, like a lot of things really. So I essentially became like a co-organizer of the event. Yeah. And then
it was, I think, fall 2020 was the one that I went to. Embarrassing story, but I think it's funny worth telling. There's a Tally Smash Abroad chat, which you are a part of. I don't know why they drag you into these things. I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed for my community. They're the best people. I remember it was my first major, and I didn't know you were in the chat, and I didn't realize you were the tournament organizer. And I was just venting my frustration because I was going to get knocked out by Tallahassee people. I'm like, this is bad. This is horrible. And like, people are allowed to vent, I think, in like the right places. They are. I just didn't know. And then you put in that same chat, and I don't know if you saw it, where like people need to stop complaining and start using the Smash GG page. And I didn't know that. But it's a fair lesson, not to myself and everyone else. Just read the Smash GG page, and I think that's been one of your biggest callings of recently. Is like, just use the Smash GG page. It is not the best app in the world, but it's super intuitive for TOs and also competitors. Players.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like I mean, obviously, like, and it wasn't, and just to like kind of go back, it was nothing personal. Obviously, I wasn't like
No,
attacking.
obviously not.
It's just it's part of my. I guess it's part of the job. Like, we'll encounter a lot of situations, a lot of people venting, ranting, and I get that. I've vented plenty of times myself on like publicly on Twitter about random things. So I completely get it. But it's just like it's just one of those things where like you have to like I think players have a certain amount of responsibility they have to like uphold to and a certain like
Yeah.
level of just accountability too. Is like as much as we can help, as much as we can mess up, like the players also mess up a lot. And I feel like a lot of times they don't want to admit that. They're like they put everything on TO or the event itself. Like no, like the players themselves also have to keep up with what we do. We can't just spoon feed you the information all the time.
Right.
That's funny. So I did not remember that actually.
No, because the funny part wasn't I didn't realize like how that you were the guy running
Yeah.
Gatorland. My first ever, I think it was a major at that point too.
Because it was more like not a bigger regional. I think it was a BT on the PGR, but essentially for a lot of people it felt like a major. Yes.
Oh, because it was huge. There's so many people there, and there's so many prominent figures. And on the Melee side, at least there was HBox, and he also played Ultimate, and that came with one of the most epic subtweets I think I've seen of the decade.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And then, but like we had people like Vinny G there. I'm trying to think of the other names: Epic Gabriel, Goblin. Ridea.
I know this. I think that like fall 2019, and spring 2020 were like two of like the biggest, like most stacked Gatorlands. It was insane time. Like I'm so happy it grew. I'm so happy it grew to where it is now, and like it's got like this reputation now. It's just like I'm really proud of it, honestly.
So you had all these big names, and I was just like, whoa. And then it's just mistakes happen, but it's a good lesson because read the Smash GG page, make it easy for yourself. Because Jose, who is the Tallahassee Smash League TO, him and Mauricio, we've had discussions just about how people are just lazy sometimes. Like we had someone come in like super late, and they're like, "Did you sign up?" No. All right, you can't play.
Yeah.
And it's as easy as that. It's like you have to like barter your own little professionalism in it too, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So obviously you're running Gatorland and doing all these things, but you also had another event that you're running, which this one is paid, not free. This is like you pay your way in an event, and there's a pretty big pot involved with it. Settle the score.
Yes.
Which how did this come about? Was this your idea? Was this something that you came up with, or was this something that you took on like Gatorland?
So settle the score. The idea came up, I think it was in May of 2019. And like coming into Gainesville, like I knew I wanted to run a regional of my own. Like that was just for sure. Right. It was going to happen at some point. But the biggest thing about settle the score wasn't like having my own event or the theme or whatever it was. It was having an actual paid regional for Gainesville. One of the biggest things that took me a long time to understand about the Gainesville scene is the fact that like they're so centered around like free events, free weeklies, free. Right. And I get it now. Like it's the college, it's a college, they don't have a lot of money, they just want to play. So a lot of them don't really take Smash that seriously. So the concept of paying for a bracket is either very foreign to them or it's not very appealing to them. And for me, when I first came into Gainesville, I didn't understand that at all. Not because I knew what it was like to be a college student and such. But the thing is, New England is a region filled with colleges. I mean, Harvard, MIT, UMass Amherst, UMass Lowell, Wentworth. Yeah. There's colleges everywhere. But the thing is, all of us still go to paid events regularly, and we save up our money and we travel and such. So to me, it's like, well, how come every like college in New England can go to paid events, but Gainesville can't have one paid weekly, just one. That's it. And there's even paid events in general. I was like, I did not understand why that wasn't a thing. But I learned that it's a big part of like the way the Gainesville scene grew and the mentality that Gainesville specifically has with events that I think is the reason why they were against. They weren't accustomed to paid events. So I wanted to try to change that as best I could. And that's really like a big point of settle the score was value, right? It's like I'm paying $20 for the venue and I'm paying $10 entry. What's the most amount of like value you can get out of that $30? So I'm like, okay, well, there's a bracket. You get your pool, and let's say you drown in pools. You're an O tour. Don't worry. There's an amateur bracket guaranteed for every single person that drowns. Also, there's rock, paper, scissors. Everyone knows how to play rock, paper, scissors. It's free. It takes 5 seconds. And if you make it far enough, you get a shiny trophy. Cool. Let's say you're not playing. There's plenty of setups for friendlies. There's booths that you can like eat your food at. There's places where you can get like your controller model. You can get a custom photograph of yourself. You can get decals. There's a stream, there's chairs, there's everything. Like I wanted it to be like no matter who you are and no matter how good you are, I wanted you to have fun at Settle the Score. And
Right.
a big part of how I kind of built the event is like this is to appeal to everyone.
And the funny part about that was, and I think it was Settle the Score 2. I could be mistaken. Because I wasn't able to go to either of them, just school.
Well,
Overlords was happening at the same time, right?
There was only one Settle the Score.
Okay, so it's the first one, and Overlords was happening at the same time, right?
Yep.
So, which that in itself is really weird because Florida's a really like to give people a perspective about Florida. It's super spread out. In order to get like from the top of Florida to get to Miami is about 10, 11 hours because there's traffic is mad. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that like there's a big tournament happening in Gainesville and a big tournament happening in Orlando, which most of the time is about 2-3 hours tops away from each other, was a little crazy to me. And so like, and as a TO in that case, what was going through your mind? Because like that's like there's obviously it's not conflicts, but like it's competition.
Yeah. So
and especially for a paid event, you know.
Yeah. There's I mean, I could go on about what happened there, but the basic gist of it was that what I found out basically was that Overlords was, I think we were both preparing our events at the same time. Mm-hmm. I announced Settle the Score in June, like the very first week of June, and Overlords was announced in late August, early September.
Right.
So if you look at it from that point of view, you would say like, oh, Overlords definitely try to, run over Settle the Score. They're trying to like ruin them, whatever. And like, I don't think that was the case.
Right.
From what I remember, what happened was Team Liquid and Hungrybox were kind of planning Overlords like on their own and like in a separate like group chat and everything. And it just so happened that we were both looking at the same weekend and we hadn't really communicated it publicly before that. And what my assumption is that at the time that Overlords was announced, they didn't see Settle the Score as a big enough event to warrant it being competition to Overlords. So they were like, oh, we'll have Overlords. It's an established series. And Settle the Score is just this like little Gainesville only thing, like a monthly, and it's not going to get much traction and we'll be fine. Unfortunately, that was not the case. I was trying to make Settle the Score an actual like Florida-wide regional. I was advertising it in every group. I was contacting top players, sponsors, everything. And I was making a big deal about it. But I guess that didn't come across to Hungrybox and Team Liquid, which is where the conflict happened. So it was definitely, it wasn't like tense, but I was definitely feeling a little off-put by those guys when they announced it because I was like, what the hell? I'm new to this whole region. Like people knew about Settle the Score too. That's a thing. Like everyone knew was happening. And there wasn't that big of an uproar on social media, but people were definitely like, wait a second, isn't there another regional happening the same day?
Right.
So it was definitely a tough pill to swallow. And like, we still got like 120 or so for Settle the Score, which is great. But if Overlords didn't happen the same day, we could have definitely hit, I think, like 300 plus. So.
And like not, and I don't think it was malintent. From my understanding, like from the outside looking in, and like someone who understands like, especially in TO and especially in Gainesville, I would argue it's probably not Gainesville, Orlando. It's probably a lot harder to get a permit too in order to be able to run something like that. And there's a lot more, and especially when you have something like Team Liquid behind. Not trying to like defend whatever, but you get the idea. Like from a business perspective, it just made a lot of sense. And I think it was just funny, like looking at the reactions and like both like these two big events happening in Florida at the same time. I was just curious, like your headspace as a TO as it was happening. Were you just more focused on your event rather than what was happening like parallel?
It was definitely the original like announcement was definitely rough because you get those million thoughts in your head, right? Like What if everyone goes to Overlords and not settle the score? What if you don't make any money? What if you don't get anyone? What if your event fails? What if, shit talking ensues, blah, 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 blah. All those start racing in your head. And after like 2 or 3 days, I was like, you know what? No, let me calm down, take a step back, take a breather, and like, let me just focus on my event, advertise what I'm doing, and just not. And this is a key distinction here. I'm not here to convince people not to go to Overlords. I'm trying to convince people to just attend my event. And it's a very important distinction, right? Because I'm not trying to deter. If people want to go over to Overlords, that's fine. I don't blame them. They can. I'm sure it was a great event. But obviously, as a TO and as an event organizer, I want people to come to my event. So I'm saying like, hey, this is the benefits that you're getting from coming to my event. This is what you're getting out of the Settle the Score experience. If you would like to come, then obviously your support is much appreciated. So I was definitely just focusing on my own thing and not trying to think too much about Overlords. Obviously, it was in my head, and obviously I was aware of everything that they were doing. But it wasn't something that I'm like, oh, I need to like stop them, whatever. It was just like, no. And even now, like, there's no hard feelings. Like I've talked that out with HBox. Everything's like in the past now, but it was definitely like an interesting situation back then.
But I didn't expect like to get into it. I was just absolutely curious because like it's one of those things because like whenever, at least in the film space and right now, with everyone is streaming because it's easy. You literally like you see how easy this is now. You literally just click on a link and you can stream as quickly as you want. We've had not issues like, but we've had conversations with other people. But like we're streaming at the same time. It's just gonna have to be a thing. It sucks, but it's just a thing. So and then with that, Gatorland Settle the Score. I know one of your big goals is to like be able to run your own major, which you got the chance to co-TO one, which was CEO Dreamland. But I kind of like want to get into like your big idea of what could be your own major and why you're so driven to do that now.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I want to have my own major. Like one part of it is that I was kind of going over my resume and like everything I've done, and I've realized that the only thing I haven't really done is really just to organize my own major. That was the only thing on my list I was like, I haven't done yet. And obviously, it's quite a big endeavor. So it's not something you can just do in 24 hours. But there's a lot really. It's like I want to give the community as a whole what I think is the best experience for an event. And I really want to innovate a lot of the aspects that I think a lot of majors are either lacking in or not necessarily focusing on more. Obviously, every event we have now is amazing and they do great things. But there's like, for example, I think events should focus a lot more on amateur brackets, for example.
Right.
I think the idea, this is like my personal opinion, right? I think the idea of traveling to another state, paying $100 to enter the event itself, and paying like hundreds and hundreds of dollars in travel and a housing fee, all that just to play 2 matches, go 0-2, and not play in any bracket for the rest of the day. I think that's unacceptable, personally. I think that, like, yes, there's the aspect of competition, and obviously, not everyone's gonna win on it. Someone has to go 0-2. But I think if you're paying $100 for a tournament, you should be guaranteed to play more than 2 matches. Obviously, there's solutions to that. There's some majors have implemented round robin pools. Some majors have implemented lane brackets, which they're kind of like, like you can kind of hop in whenever you want and play in like a mini 16-man bracket.
Right.
People have introduced like side events. There's a bunch of things, and like I respect those a lot, and obviously there are great ways in addressing that. But I think in terms of the main bracket, the main competition that everyone is entering, you should be guaranteed to play more than 2 matches no matter what. And there's just, I think it's just like, if I'm a kid, right? If I'm like a completely new guy and my first tournament happens to be a major, and I play 2 matches, I get exploded. I don't know anyone in the community. I don't know what events are like. I don't know what the community is like. I'm gonna have a hard time like really getting to know everyone. And like obviously, like yes, like you're gonna try your best to explore and like meet new people, but like I feel like there's more ways that the tournament itself can be more welcoming to players,
For sure.
especially new players, and especially casuals, right? Because like right now, events are focused entirely on the competitive side of the community. People who are used to tournaments, people who know what competition is like, people who know all the tech, etc. If you're a casual right now, like you're really like random 18-year-old kid, right? Random 14-year-old, whatever. You enter a tournament, you have no idea what the meta is. You don't know matchups. You don't know counter picking. You don't know anything. All you know is you like Pikachu and there's Link and you want to hit him. That's all you know. So to just be thrown into this like major with all these top players, get eliminated and not know about anything you did wrong or right, it's pretty tough pill to swallow. So that's like a huge thing for me. And there's a bunch of other things too that are more, I guess, technical. For example, I think like every setup, every console at a major should have sound. Everything should have like I think there should be dedicated headphones for every player at every single setup. I think there should be like 100+ setups per event. Like there should be like dedicated setups for bracket and dedicated setups for friendlies. I think that there should be, I think the staff should be paid. I think that's a huge thing that people don't talk about is that, and obviously esports doesn't have it has a lot of money, but it doesn't have a ton of money. And I understand a lot of people are doing it for passion. I understand not everyone can pay every TO, volunteer, etc. a decent wage. And I get that, but like $20 for just running one pool goes a long way. Like it's the action that counts really. It's the incentive. If you can even just pay like a little bit of money or even cover like dinner or something like, or I should say not cover dinner because people do that. If you can give some monetary, like physical monetary compensation to the people that work your event and just gradually go up from there, things will go so much further. Like obviously like having free dinner, obviously having t-shirts and whatever like helps a lot, or free venue. It's a big deal. And I respect everyone that can do that. But just saying, hey, I was paid to run an event is a big deal. And people's motivation are actually affected by this.
Correct. So. Well, like a couple of points. I remember I was screaming at TSL. When I say screaming, I say that just in jest. I wasn't actually screaming at them. But I was like saying to TSL about the O2 thing at majors. I'm like, why would I want to pay to go to said regional when I know I'm going to go O2 in bracket? And I have to, it's a drive there and back. It's that much gas money. And like it didn't click with them, which is fair enough. They've been in Smash a lot longer than I have. I'm like, from my point of view, I could be spending that I think it's $50 at that point on going to the club 5 times in a row, which sounds really bad. Don't get me wrong. But what would I have a better time at? And it's even the smaller things like that. I'm gonna be exposed. Evan DeGraff goes to clubs. Great. FSU Student goes clubbing. But it's just like one of those ideas. It's like that $50 could go to something else rather than.
And like even like and this is obviously me speaking personally, my personal opinions. Obviously I'm sure if any like TO like tournament organizer or event organizers watching this, obviously I know they're gonna bring up like, well, there's event costs and there's a lot of logistics that people aren't aware of, and I completely understand. And like I can also like kind of flip my jacket and say, as a TO, you can't pay everyone. And trust me, like, and I say this kind of for clarity's sake and for full transparency, I completely know and I understand all the costs that go into an event. I know all the stress that you go through, and I know it's not feasible for everyone right now to pay everyone a decent wage. I know, like, I know there's gonna be a million quote retweets and subtweets, and I know, but it's just.
I'll defend you. I got you.
Like people have to consider, and it's something we actually have to work towards. And it's also a big reason why I became a TO and why I want to host my own major, because I want to say it is possible to do these things, and there are ways to improve the experience for everyone involved, including the staff. And I want to be the guy to kind of innovate the industry like that and to prove people wrong. That's a big part of it.
And then even to that point, like let's say Jose, Itheta, and V, they were all pool runners for GSE. Granted, that is a free event; it's a different conversation. But like, let's say it was for a different regional, right? If you incentivize them with that $20, they're going to do the best possible job they can. because it's now monetary value. And if they keep coming back because you think that they're doing a good job, and you say, you know what, you earn that $20, they're going to get better and better at it. So it's not just, oh, I'm doing here to do this responsibility. It's like, oh, this is something I can actually work towards. And like, it becomes a more so an incentive versus like, oh, this is kind of a little side gig I'm working on. And this is something that like, it's a craft and it's getting better at it. I think, and this is an issue that I have in a bunch of like smaller creators and a bunch of like streams just in general. You have to pay people when you can.
Yep.
They might love their work, but they will either one, start slacking, or two, become exhausted of it. I have seen it in the film community, and I've seen it in the Smash community too. Pay your people.
Exactly. Like, as much as we're passionate about what we do, and as much as we love what we do, and that we want to do the best we can to help the community, it's a job. This is a job. This is a career for a lot of us. TOing, as much as it's like a community role, it is a real job. Like, people get surprised when you tell them how much like actual like event organizers actually get paid to run these kind of events. Like, these are extremely valuable skills. Like, people think like for TOs, like making like $100 after weekly, that's a lot for people. In the actual event organizing world, organizing a reoccurring 100+ man weekly, you can get paid like, thousands of dollars every week for that. Like, it's a very real, like, majors with like thousands and thousands of people and sponsors and everything. There's an absurd amount of money that goes into that, and people don't realize it. Like,
yeah, you should for majors like that, you should be making north, like, this is me personally speaking, north of at least 30 grand.
Yeah,
because those, and yeah, but that's a different conversation for a different, and I'm sure like,
yeah,
I follow both Vasev and Max online, and they've talked endlessly about like how much it can be a money pit sometimes and whatnot.
And I completely agree.
Yeah. But they also, and I think I've had the conversation with Jose on a smaller scale. It's like, we need to like rethink about either how we're charging people or how we're getting revenue for this. And sorry, there's and you could call this TO theory. I don't know, whatever. But like, I think sometimes the community fails to see it as a business, which it is. There are transactions happening.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it is a business. And sometimes you have to work, especially in an esports community where your game doesn't support you.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And seen it as a business. So that's also my little preachy thing, is like, I think the community at large just needs to rethink how they look at competitions, rather just like, I'm going into bracket and I have to pay this much, and if I win, I get this much money. It's more than that.
Yeah, way more.
So COVID happens.
Yay, COVID, yeah.
And the online community, or the Smash community, has now become the online Smash community. I think there are two different communities, and I think they have started to merge together, which is super frightening from even just like a social media side of things. Because what's weird about Twitter, and what I actually really appreciate about Twitter, is you are able to stay in your little bubbles.
Yeah,
it's very hard to break out of your bubble that you're stuck in. Which is good, because that means you're not getting unwarranted opinions that you don't want. However, the bubbles were popped.
Yes. You
now had people who have never interacted before because of COVID, people who were only strictly online or offline tournaments entering online tournaments. And you now have two different communities coming together with each other.
Yeah.
So, Cyrus, and it's really hard to approach this topic because there's not really like one starting point to get into this. When you got approached, I think I forget the name of the first big online tournament that you helped run during COVID, at least. Do you remember what it was? I forget the name. Jose helped you with it.
I think it was a Mazer event. That was like a file. Yeah. Or Bunker Down. Was it Bunker Down?
I think it was Bunker Down.
Bunker Down. Yeah, Bunker Down.
And obviously, Smash GG is amazing in so many ways, yet there's things that need to be worked on, and I think we all know this.
Yes.
So when you first ran that event, and we obviously knew it wasn't like, anyone from the outside obviously knew this is like a big online event. This is something new that's happening. Yeah. Not everything can go right, and that's just how things work.
Exactly.
What's your thought process, one, going into it, two, seeding, because seeding is a whole different beast at this point.
Oh, God,
and then three, as the event is happening, like, what's your thought process? Like, are you either freaking out or are you just like taking the blows and just letting them come?
So it was it was really interesting because obviously, like, offline tiering and online tiering are just two very different things.
Mhm.
And they work very differently, and there's very different approaches to it. But I've never, before COVID, I've never run an online event before.
Right.
Never. I've played in online events before, and I've kind of got like a general idea of like how they work, but I've never done it before. So I was just going in blind. I was just like, let's just hope this works. Let's just hope I don't miss anything like super obvious. One thing I did do before Bunker Down and the Mazer event happened is I was there's a few like big online TOs that I knew of and I was like somewhat close to, and I messaged them. I was like, hey, I'm running this event soon. Give me like the full rundown on online TOing. I was asking them a bunch of questions. I'm like, what do we do in this situation? What do we do in that situation? How do you handle speeding? How do you handle that? What are the right settings for this thing, for that thing? As like, I was asking everything I possibly could. So thankfully, like my first few times running online events weren't like catastrophic. Obviously, there's plenty of ways I could have improved upon them, but it wasn't a total shit show. Thankfully,
Right.
but it was definitely it was a weird experience because like obviously I had my previous like offline teaming experience going into it, so I was confident in that sense. But there was also a certain aspect of being like new and unaware of what's going on and like kind of tiptoeing around and like I'm really making sure I'm not missing anything up. So it was a really weird like kind of back and forth 50-50. And it was definitely stressful, I'll give you that, because like if I mess up once, like everyone's like, oh, everyone's gonna come at you and like jump on your throat. So it was definitely a very strict learning experience, but it was still an enjoyable one nonetheless. And I ended up adapting like really, really quickly to the online environment. And now I'm able to run all these like online majors, which is sick. But like one thing I wanted to point out, because when you mentioned the online community and the way they've merged and everything, one thing that people don't realize is that there's the offline community and there's the online community, and those two have merged because of COVID. The big thing is the online community knows about the offline community, but the offline community does not know about the online community. So there's a ton of players and TOs and graphic designers and whatever that people just legitimately don't know about and that they're now finding out about because of COVID. And the average age of like the offline community is like 18 to 25. Is like late high school, college students, and like early adults and everything.
Right.
Online community is on the age range is between like 12 years old and 18 years old. They are very young. One of the best players online, his tag is enhanced PV. He's a cloud player. He's like top 5 or top 10 online.
Right.
He's 12. He's a 12-year-old. Like straight up. And it's weird to think about, but like, and even like Sabe, who's like a really, really, really good Game Watch player from CFL. He's like 14 or something. He used to be an online warrior. He started off as a young kid who just played Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Right.
Even all these top players like Nairo, Anti, etc., they all started on Wi-Fi in Brawl, and they were all 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, and they eventually moved to offline, and now here we are. So it's the same thing here. These guys, they're all young kids. They don't know any better. They don't know what the offline scene is like. And they're used to their small 20, 30, 50-man brackets. And now we suddenly have 2, 3, 500,000, 2, 3, 4,000 people events. They don't know what it's like. So it's a learning experience for everyone. And it's such a huge shakeup in the community. I've never seen anything like this before.
So this is something I've seen you tweet about. One of the biggest problems right now with the online tournament is the amount of DQs that we are seeing.
Yep.
What? And it's a really weird topic because it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that like is one causing these TOs other than just pure laziness and thinking that people can sign up for anything? And two, do you think can be and should be the response to these?
Funny enough, I have experience in this topic because I've dealt with it in Gainesville. So I have
with GSC and stuff.
So in Gainesville, we have like all our events are free. With free events, it means that players have very little commitment in terms of the actual events. So they think like, oh, I'm not putting any money into this. I'm just putting my name down. And if I don't show up, there's not really any consequences, which is not true. There are like actual like if you sign up for an event, you should attend it offline. And I can get into another day, obviously. But for online, it's so easy to enter in an online event, and it's so easy to play in an online event that people just don't care. They're like, I'm just going to sign up for 5 of them in a day, and I'll play in whatever I feel like playing. And you end up having these scenarios where people have, there's like 2, 3, 500, even thousands of DQs for no reason. And you know, part of it is like, you know, these big major online events start at like noon on like noon Eastern time, which is like 9 a.m. Pacific. So the Pacific side players are like, I don't want to wake up that early, or even the Eastern side players, they're like, I don't want to wake up at 10 a.m. to play in an online tournament that I know I'm not going to enjoy, or I don't like my bracket or whatever. I'm just going to get good. And I understand their feeling, but at the same time, as a TO, it's like, it sucks seeing 5,000 people registered and only like 3,000 of them playing. It sucks. It's horrible. There's ways we can combat that. You know, we can push advertising even more. We can make the event start later. We can have, you know, we can try to punish players for DQing, but again, I think that's unreasonable, and I think that's really hard to enforce because of the sheer amount of DQs and just keeping track of everyone. But a big thing that people have mentioned about reducing the amount of DQs is making the brackets paid, even just like $1, right? Like you have to pay $1 to enter the bracket. And on paper, that sounds like a good idea because it's not a lot of money. It's still not a huge commitment, but it's enough that like you have to commit to the dollar you put in, and we can still have a bracket and potentially a bigger pot. However, the community as a whole hates paying for online events. It's almost taboo, actually, because to them, they don't see any value in paying for an online bracket. To them, they're already paying for the internet. They're already paying for the Nintendo service. Smash GG is a free website. Nobody likes Ultimates Online. And people, you know, they just don't like paying. They don't have money. They don't like paying for things.
Right.
All this put together on top of COVID and everything, and paying for an online bracket is the last priority they have. So it's not realistic right now, or it's something that's just like, I don't want to say impossible to you know, put together, but it's like, even with just Bunker Down, right? The first Bunker Down weekly was $5, very easy, just $5 entry. There were 16 entrants, 16. Next week, we make it free entry. We skyrocket to 230 entrants.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Really quick, the Funkmaster Ness in the comments was wondering thoughts on restricting signs for online matches, which we kind of talked about a little bit, especially with the DQs, and enforcing Ethernet. I'm going to go like before you, Speaker Wisdom. I think it's going to be impossible to enforce Ethernet. Like, something like that is near impossible. And also, you could argue from time to time could end up being a little classist. And that's a really weird discussion to have. But imagine me like, okay, yeah, you have to go get this Ethernet port, and if it's cheap, it could bust easily. So you have to go out and get a good one. And if it's not good enough, or if your internet in that one spot where you thought you could play doesn't work, well, no Ethernet for you. And then that's my thought on it. It really sucks, but like, just deal with it, you know?
Yeah, it's obviously like the whole topic of like Ethernet, LAN, Wi-Fi, all that stuff is a big topic. There's been a lot of tournaments lately. The majority of tournaments have LAN required, so it's not enforced, but it's just like, in order to play in this tournament, you're basically confirming, hopefully, the fact that you have Ethernet, that you're running on a wired connection. That way, it improves your connection speed, it improves stability, et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely something that's been approached, but it's impossible to enforce Ethernet for the simple reason that when you sign up on Smash GG, there isn't like an option that basically says like, please test your connection here to make sure you have LAN. You know, there's nothing in the UI in the menu for Smash that says you cannot join this lobby unless you have an Ethernet connection. Now,
Right.
you can attribute this to a bunch of different aspects. You can say it's Nintendo's fault, it's the Switch's fault, it's Ultimate's fault, whatever. The one thing I will say is it's very common in fighting games to have an indicator to basically show your connection, like your netcode, and it'll typically show with like a couple of like bars, and it's like if you have like a 5-bar connection, a 4-bar connection, etc.
It's typical for most games. Like I was playing Fortnite like 2 weeks ago with some friends. It was doing the same thing for me. It was like you're at full connection or you're like a little disconnected right now, and it had like 3 different things.
Yeah, and there's ways to create lobbies in plenty of other games and say you can only join this lobby if you have a 5-bar connection, a 4-bar connection, etc. And those are great steps in terms of like approaching, enforcing a better connection. And even on the Switch menu, it actually tells you if you're running on a wired connection, if you're running on a Wi-Fi connection. There's like a little like logo at the top.
Yeah,
We have plenty of ways to kind of address that. But right now it's impossible to enforce LAN. You can make it as required and you can crack down on it as much as you can, but it is impossible to basically prove that you have an Ethernet connection at registration until we find a way, or the Ultimate provides an update or something.
right. Are you pro if there's the ability to make it proven, like pro Ethernet / LAN connection?
I would absolutely say like guaranteed, like LAN only. Like, look, I understand adapters are cheap. I understand they break. I understand, not everyone has access to an Ethernet connection readily available.
Right.
It's 2020. They don't cost a lot of money. There's been countless advancements now with internet connections and such. Just look into it. I'm willing to make 1,000 tweets about this. There are ways for people to get Ethernet connections. It just takes a little bit of research, a little bit of financial investment, just a few 20, 30, 50 bucks, and you're set for life. You're good, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I can't especially because the Nintendo servers are the way they are. Like I play Mario Kart with friends, and like you see freaking carts skipping, and that's a very low maintenance Wi-Fi game. Like it's a game where there's not that many pieces moving. Yet there's still an awful connection, and also like even Mario Party, you can't even play Mario Party on the game. You can only do mini games with friends, and not to like shit on Nintendo Wi-Fi. It's just like it's just something that makes sense and whatnot. And shout out to like another part that we were talking about earlier, Osmar.
I was just reading the chat.
Yeah, back on the paying staff aspect, I know people who went to Combo Breaker solely to volunteer and made their money back on the trip plus some extra, just working nonstop. I am curious to see how that works, because is it you work a certain amount and then this major made this amount of money and they're able to redistribute it back to volunteers?
So it depends. So it depends from event to event. Every event has a different method of kind of compensating volunteers. I don't know personally how Combo Breaker does it. I think Ozmar can definitely tell you more. He's a fighting game CEO in the Gainesville area, and he's very involved with the Tekken scene and just other fighting games as well. So he can tell you more about how Combo Breaker does it. But I can tell you that what a lot of events do. So for example, SmashCon, Super SmashCon, huge major for Smash. The way they do it is after a certain amount of shifts. I think if you run 4 pools at SmashCon, you get your venue fee back. It's compensated. So like the $80 that you paid is given back to you basically.
Right.
There's a couple of events that give you free venue if you volunteer for the event. There's a couple of events that give you, I think I've heard of like maybe one event where it's like you get like $10 for every pool you run. I think I've only heard of that like once. So it really depends, but like I think something that like Osmar is talking about is that a lot of people, when they help out at a major, they do it for the passion. They want to help the community. They want to help the event grow, and they really like the vibe that they're getting from the event, and they get their money worth by working the event and by seeing everyone be happy, and that's fine. Like passion is a huge drive for a lot of people, and some people genuinely don't want to get paid, and that's fine. That's understandable, that they don't want to get paid. And obviously, like we love, as organizers, we love seeing those people that are just passionate about running pools, passionate about the community, and that want to help out. But I just think compensation should be a thing that should be considered. So he's just saying, so the combo breaker format was $20 cash or $25 in gaming gen credit. So that's one example. For example, is like you can get some sort of compensation for working.
Yeah.
I think is a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
And then after, there's another like one little topic that I want to mention before like we start wrapping things up. But the quick question from the Funkmaster Nest again. Thoughts on when offline tournaments should start back up. I've seen your Twitter about this, and I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Be patient, please. Yeah. If you are responsible for someone potentially catching COVID, and granted, most, I say most, and it's a big thing. Most people who play Smash are younger, so you're in theory at less risk. However, if you are responsible for someone catching COVID, the ramifications are there forever.
Yes, it's like I get it. You know, people are gonna say like we have to try something. We have to like kind of play around with regulations or whatever. It's not smart. Just please stop. Please just don't do it. It's not worth it is not worth to risk your health and to risk messing with regulations all to enter a tournament, a video game tournament. This is, for 99% of us, this is a hobby. There's very, very few people where this is a legit career for us. And for those of us that it's a career, we have much bigger fish to fry and we have much bigger problems to assess.
Right.
Like, even if your weekly is some random 16-player local that only your friends go to at your card shop, in your basement, whatever it is, the ramifications are huge for you, for your friends, for your scene, for your town, and for the industry as a whole. I'm not joking when I say you can get sued for this. You can legitimately get sued if one of your attendees gets COVID. It is a huge deal. Do not do it under any circumstance, please. I wish I could like message every TO that's considering this. I wish I could pay them even to not host it. Just please don't. Just wait. It's not. We have options. We have Wi-Fi. There's other things to do. I know online sucks. I know you miss offline a lot. I know you miss your friends, but just don't do it. Just wait. It is not smart.
And another thing from a science-based perspective too, COVID has a rougher time transferring outside just due to how the air works and whatnot. But most events are held inside. It is very hard to host a Smash tournament outside, even if you're like thinking about that, and even all like everything that's built on top of that. Like, and especially when you're inside, and even if you have 16 people in an area that you could say is like 100 square foot, it's still impossible to practice proper social distancing at all costs. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly. Like in terms of go ahead.
I get the itch to want to play again offline. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense right now.
In terms of like when offlines will reappear, I mean, the big disclaimer is we don't know. That's the real answer. We have no idea. There's so much unknown right now with the virus in the community that we just legit don't know when things are going to start up. Yeah. If I had to make a guess, I think we'll slowly start to see things like weeklies, just local events open up in the fall 2020. I think is when we can start seeing potentially a reopening in local events. But I think I wouldn't even consider anything being truly safe until 2021. And even then, like we have no idea what the virus will look like. But like again, like take that with the tiniest pinch of salt you ever could, like microscopic level pinch of salt. Like I try to be positive and I try to be hopeful, and like I always tell people, like just 2021 should be fine. But again, we have no idea what things will look like. Zero.
The US could be a mess by the time we're talking about 2021 too, because who the heck knows? I think something else that I'm really curious about, because Thursday Throwdown is a Florida State ran event. If you're familiar with Thursday, it's our biggest bi-weekly that we have in Tallahassee. Yeah. Like 60 plus people show up. It's not a TO ran thing. It is a university ran thing that the TOs help out with. And I currently work at the venue or the place that runs it. We have no clue what's happening. And whether Thursday Throwdown gets ran because the university says it should get ran, or because they say it's up to us, and we're like, this is something that we depend on. I'm really interested, because I know there's a lot of locals who are like that too, where the local might be ran by the business, or the local might be ran by something else. And so there's just a lot to break down in that case. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is just kind of the state of the community and kind of like where you think the direction is heading and where it should head, because like they're definitely two different things at the moment. I personally think, and it's fine I say that because I'm an online person or whatever, but like I don't mind saying these things. Like I think we are heading in this really weird spiral because people cannot communicate in person at the moment. And from a psychological perspective, it's so hard to properly communicate if you're not talking to someone in the face. And like even right now, it's like not the way it should be. Where do you think the community is heading right now?
I mean, I think right now, I think post-COVID, and even during COVID, right? But I think once things kind of start dying down, and I think once the community kind of gets back on its feet, I think it's going to be a major shift. I think everything's going to be different, not just in terms of health and safety, right? In terms of procedures and the way we look at events and the way we keep everyone safe. But I think the way events are run, I think the mindset that people have with TOs and tournaments, I think the way that people approach it, the way people support us, I think the whole landscape is going to change, and I think people are trying their best to prepare for that. But it's going to be a big change, and we just like things are going to. It's not just about like we have to get ready for the new normal. We just have to be ready to adapt at any point, just like that.
Yeah.
In terms of the point you brought up about events kind of restarting up, not because of the TOs, but because of the business or the college. I think that's been the case for a couple places. I understand that business have to reopen, and I understand they have to make some money. I understand if colleges want to get some traction back into the event, and it's definitely a slippery slope, right? Because you want to work the events, you want to work back in offline events, and you want to make some money as well. But you don't want to risk your life, and you don't want to risk your health and attendees and etc. I think it's a case by case basis. Honestly, but my personal philosophy, and this is definitely an extreme one, but I mentioned this on Twitter last night, but I will refuse to run any offline event until it's safe to do so. I don't care how much you pay me. I don't care who's hiring me. I don't care where it is, when it is. Well, I guess I kind of care when it is, but still, if it's in like 6 months, like okay, sure. But if it's like in a week, screw that. No, it goes against my personal values and ethic as a TO that I wouldn't feel comfortable. I know my attendees wouldn't feel comfortable. I know everyone have that thought in the back of their head. I'm like, we shouldn't be doing this, but we're doing it anyways. And it baffles me that people care more about the economy and this is not to get political, obviously, but it baffles me that people care more about making money again than people being alive and people being healthy.
Right.
That's it. And I get it. Different perspectives, different point of views. I get it. But like Smash events are never going to die. They're always going to be an event in some way, shape, or form. Some player, some dude is going to host an event at his house. It's going to be popular. It's going to be popping. It's going to get traction, and it's going to happen. We have online. We're fine. The community's not going to die. Nothing's going to happen to us.
I mean, look at your case. Brawl is still alive.
Hospital or not? That's what's going to happen to us.
But look at your case. Brawl is still alive. Like, the small game, the most, you could argue, controversial Smash game to have come out to date is still alive.
Yeah,
exactly. And obviously, you're a part of that, but the game won't die. And it's the same way with like sports. There's some smaller sports died. Golf hasn't died yet. Golf should be dead. Yeah, but it's still alive. And yes, I play golf. We don't talk about it. But that game is still alive. No matter what people are passionate about things, it will not die. Just give it time. And yes, I'm getting a little preachy, but that's where we're at the moment. So,
it just not to cut you off, obviously.
No, you're good.
There's a scene is as long as this might be like a hot take, but as long as one person is actively playing the game and is actively talking about the game and posting about the game, the game is never dead. A game will never die until it is truly not played anymore. it's forgotten and everything. Like there are plenty of fighting games out there where the scene is like 10 people, like legit 10 people. And it's fine. That's completely fine. The size of the scene does not dictate whether or not the scene is alive. Like people talking about like 64 and Brawl dying, it's like, no, those games are still at Genesis and Smash Con. They're not going to die. People talk about like Smash 4 dying, and like obviously, yes, Smash 4 is not very popular, but that's not going to die. It's still at Smash Con. It's still going to be played. People talk about like Ultima's going to die. Melee's going to die because it's not at Evo. Like, what? No, Melee's not going to die. Ultimate's not going to die. I don't care. Nothing's going to die. If there's two dudes in a bedroom playing the game, the scene's alive. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Fire. And I think this is the perfect time to transition. So this is the most controversial thing on the show that I've gone through. It's a one thing. It is wait, what's the word I'm looking for? Subject, topic. Oh, segment. There we go. Segment that we have on the show. It's right above you. It's literally the name of the show, Famous Last Words. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea is it's really open-ended, and this is why a lot of people hate me for it. Just in any situation, or even just like something that like you would let someone know just if you would never see them again or whatever. What would your famous last words be? So you'll say what you think your idea of a famous last words is, at least and then I will shock you and actually like make you rethink the whole idea. That's kind of how this works.
So just so I understand, you said if I were to never see someone again, what would be my famous last words to them?
Or any situation, like let's say you're about to like go out and do something stupid. Like what were your famous last words then? Or even to get too brutal, like let's say you're about to die, what were your famous last words? Or even just something philosophical. You know? It really just depends.
I mean, it's definitely. Obviously, I don't have like the perfect, I can think of like the perfect sentence for it.
Yeah.
And theorize and everything and the delivery. And then it actually happens. And I'm like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. But I guess I think my famous last words would probably something along the lines of like, don't forget what I did and don't be discouraged if this happens. Yeah. And don't forget what I did and don't be discouraged by me leaving. It would be the idea that I want what I do in life to be remembered, and I want to have an impact on people. And even if I'm not directly or indirectly involved with said person or situation, I don't want them to give up on what they're passionate about, and I don't want them to stop doing what they're doing. So if I can just give even an ounce, even a fragment of motivation and hope and positivity in what they're doing, then that's all I care about. So,
oh yeah, dude, that's actually those are some nice words. I like that. My famous last words, and I usually try and make it like we're like the person who would get it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So if you know the Wii Fit trainer Nori out of TSL, he's going to become the best Wii Fit in Florida, and people just aren't ready for it. That's the T.
Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So him and we decided to go to GSC because I guess Tally didn't have like 2 Thursday tournaments in a row for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And we were just thirsting for Smash. Mm-hmm. And this man goes, we should go to GSC. And I'm like, excuse me, what? He goes, we should go to GSC. And I said, okay, let's actually do this. Yeah. And he goes, what? I'm like, and my famous last words were, we are going to take your car. I'm going to drive because you don't like to drive. And we are going to GSC. And we are going to go there and back in the same day. And those are my famous last words because I famously went to that tournament. I went 0-2. I was salty because Gainesville plays completely different than Tallahassee does, in which it's a weird thing. Like region to region, people actually play different, and it freaks me out. But it was also like a really good time because GSC is a really interesting learning experience, especially in terms of like interacting at a local because so many goddamn people are there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those were my famous last words, was actually like getting the sack and be like, all right, let's go.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm glad you had a good time at GSC. It's definitely I've been to a ton of weeklies in my life, and it's definitely one of the most interesting experiences I've had at a weekly, in terms of the mentality, who's there, etc. But it's a great time. And like, whenever this whole pandemic slows down, whenever we're actually able to attend offline events again, I really urge everyone to please, if you can, attend your local weekly, support your scene. And if you're in Gainesville or if you're in Florida, come by GSC at least once, see what it's like. I promise you, you will enjoy it and you will love it. Support your local scene. It is a huge deal.
I was having this conversation with Nori too. I was just like, I don't know why more people from CFL don't go to GSE. I know it's 2 hours away, but like there are so many people there. There's so much matchup experience. At least you might be better than the person, but they could do something in the matchup that you have never seen before, and you can carry that with you, especially to like the big majors, because CFL is stacked.
Yeah,
I didn't realize this until like probably like 3 or 4 months until after I entered this thing. That region is stacked.
Yeah.
And like the places around them is also stacked. Tampa is stacked. Gainesville, I would argue, is pretty stacked. There are some really good players out in Gainesville, and also Mutates just moved there as well.
Yep.
Like, but yeah, those would be my famous last words. I really don't want to thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. You have burst the film community bubble, and you have entered now a new community into the scene. I thoroughly do appreciate it. So with that, where can the people find you online? Are there any tournaments that you're running soon that you might want to promote? What's the rundown?
So you can find me right below here. I think I can't.
There you go. You got it.
Yeah, there you go. At CAGT3000 on Twitter. That's where I post the most. That's where I tweet all the time. I interact with everyone. I follow as many people as I can. I have a Twitch and Facebook, but I don't really stream much. I mean, I used to when GSC was around. Now I don't really stream. I don't really have the time for it. You can also find me on Facebook, which is just my name below. So you can look that up on Facebook or my Twitter. I don't really care. Either one works. And in terms of events, I don't have like my event or my weekly that I run every week. But if you see a big event happening that's over 1,000 players, chances are I'm probably involved. Like I swear to God, I think I've ran not every one major, but like 99% of online majors since the quarantine started. So if you see a big event, 99% of the time I'm involved in it. So
yes, sir. And this is just like coming from me to you. I thoroughly like appreciate all the work. It's like everything that you do seems like you're helping restructure the community, but for better. You're like you're willing to take risks and chances, which I think is impeccable, especially in a leadership role as TOing is. So thoroughly appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, and I'm sure I'm going to see you around after when all this is over.
No, I really appreciate it. This was awesome, man. I mean, this was really sick. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And then we're gonna run through things really quick. The normal plugs. Again, make sure tomorrow you guys check out Suddenly Soundtracks, Phantom of the Paradise with Mark Hewitt, video during Rachel Tivius Straney. Those are some cool cats. And they're talking about really eclectic musicals, so make sure you guys check that out. And then Friday, we're finishing out our Ryan Johnson month with Knives Out. That movie is great. It's one of my favorite movies of last year. Just a great murder mystery, everything that you want. And then Saturday, Family Game Night, Cards Against Humanity, Part 3. Amazing cast of characters, people who I'm just really good friends with, and I can't wait to make really offensive jokes with Cards Against Humanity. It's the one time I think you get like a pass for it being, I don't know. Just make sure you guys check it out. And that's gonna be that. I'm working on it, I guess, for next week. But as COVID things happen and how my brain functions, I usually just get them at some time, and then I announce it at some time, and then you guys just watch. Again, I do want to appreciate the chat for coming in and filling in and giving out your thoughts and ideas. I actually really do appreciate it. Some new faces, and that's really dope. So with that, you guys can find me at Twitter right there, Evan DeGraff Live. I had a great time, and yeah, follow me on there. I tweet things. I main Roy now. I'm no longer a Bowser main. Rest in peace. But I'll see you guys in the future. With that, I'll talk to you guys later.